I think we're good. So this is the first ever little podcast we're doing for our Adults on Adventure channel. So let's get into it. So we have, right here, we have 4 active DMs, or semi-retired DMs. And then we have Hannah, who has run a one-shot once. And Mandy, who has world-builded, but never run a game.
One shot.
And they're going to be moderating and asking questions to us as the DMs, and we're going to be answering and sort of giving some insight into, you know, why we make decisions we do, why we like to world build how we are, and hopefully, like I'm excited to just talk to other DMs in like a way that's like not in game.
Yeah.
You know, like I
don't want to question your calls anymore.
Yeah, it's like when we talk outside.
Actually, that spell doesn't.
So like when we.
Is that how you're doing it? Okay.
I feel like I always talk to you guys, and we always talk about like little DM shit here or there. Cody now more than like in the past, obviously, but yeah, I feel like it's kind of a cool experience for all of us to be here just to talk about the game and not actually play the game. So I'm pretty excited. Hopefully you guys are excited. I've been looking forward to this since I put on the calendar. So
it's like what, a month ago?
Yeah, it's been like a month, right? Yeah.
As you can see, Shade is the organized DM.
Yeah. So I think to kick it off, before they get to questions, just in case anyone watching doesn't know like who we all are, I think it's probably important to do some sort of introduction, and then just like for the DMs, explain like what games you've run, like how long you've been playing and all of that. So I'll kick it off since I'm running our current campaign. Been playing for about 6 years now. Got introduced by this fucking guy, actually.
Has it been 6 years now?
It's been 6 years.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
So I started playing because my sister's husband worked with this guy and said, hey, we're going to play D&D. And I said, that sounds cool. Can I play? And so that's how I started.
So simple.
And
he was the MVP of that group, I'll tell you.
And it was so much fun. I fell in love with it. And Adam's my oldest friend. So he told me he also plays D&D, which, looking back at, I wish I would have known way earlier, because he got to see Critical Role live in Indianapolis at Gen Con.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was there.
Nice.
He told me that you did that.
Yep. And he had told me he went to it. Told me he went to it, and I had no idea how fucking cool that was at the time.
Yeah.
But he went with Trey and some friends, and I was like, dude, I wish I was in the scene.
Right.
I wish I was in the scene back then.
Oh.
So super cool. But yeah, then he started DMing a separate campaign for us, and it was a blast. And then I decided to take over, and I was like, I want to run a one-shot first. That went well. I ran a mini campaign. I ran a lot of mini campaigns, like 5 to 7 sessions. And then I ran our last one that went for like 2.5 years. Yeah. And then now we're in campaign 2, just restarting up, just fucking heavy hitters here. So you guys all know me. Adam, why don't you give us your background? I think you might be the most veteran DM.
Well, I realize now that it's 6 years. It's been 6 years of playing with y'all.
Yeah.
There's a good probably 10 years before that. And so I'm like, I'm old. That's cool.
You have kids.
Teach us your
kids.
Kids. I'm Adam. I've been playing D&D, so probably about 15 years now. Started with Trey, who's not here, but he's one of our friends. Started with
huge enhancement to the podcast.
I'm sure he'll join it.
Also a DM and a general shitster.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's the Chaos DM or the Chaos player, whatever you want to call us.
Pure chaos.
Been playing D&D 15, 16 years. Started through Trey because I had a separate friend named Nick, and he was like, I want to play. And I was like, swords and magic. I'm all about that shit. Give me that. And so we had a friend who unfortunately was a creepy DM. That's a story for another time.
Okay.
That might be a story for tonight.
He was a creepy DM, and we lost multiple people went through that party. But eventually he stopped playing in sessions, and so we were like, I still want to play. And I would bug Trey about it. And then it was easier for me to be like, okay, I'm going to do it. so that we at least play. And then you started playing, and I was like, oh, now I can play twice a week. But yeah, about 16 years. I like overpowered things. I like magic items.
What?
Yes.
Hey, you know what? We all have our quirks. Mine is I want to stop shit to the ground.
Back comes up, and we're all like, thank God.
Yes, thank God.
I know it's a little premature. I'm sure we'll talk about different like archetypes and player types and DM types and all of that. But if there was a more like I play D&D because I like video games person, Adam is that. Adam is the one who he plays D&D like it's a video game. He'll loot everything. He will.
Hey, everything is XP.
Yep.
And everything gives me items.
You know, there's no 100% in D&D.
After every
session, when I've played every D&D class, I will have 100% D&D. Okay.
All right. Adam, thank you for sharing. Seamus.
Hey, I'm Seamus, and I guess I'm DM'd for Shade, as you mentioned, 7 years ago. I feel so. I've DM'd Strahd 1 1/3 times. So that was fun.
Kicked his ass.
Yeah, definitely.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Cody actually kicked our ass.
Yeah.
I guess my mind's gone blank on it, but yeah, I've DM'd for Shade and a group of friends. I got into it, as probably anybody who's watching, if you are, through Critical Role and a general love of video games. I played a lot of Elder Scrolls games, and I just loved the idea of magic and swords. And one day at work, I was just determined, like, I want to do something that involves people and my friends, and I like doing voices and all this stuff. And I'm like, you know what? If nobody's going to be a DM, by golly, it's going to be me.
I feel like a lot of us fall into that, like, I just want to play.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. It definitely becomes a thing where I was super nervous about it and all this other stuff, but it was something that I knew I wanted to spend time with people and have I started off as like a guys' night originally with Shade and with some of the people that I worked with, but it's been a lot of fun. And I'm more of a player now, so I guess you could say I'm the semi-retired that he mentioned earlier, but not afraid to get behind the screen because I do love doing that. I like seeing how people have fun, and to me that's like the most important thing about being a DM, and that's kind of my experience with it. Just enjoying being with friends.
Yeah.
Being on that side of the screen.
Cody?
Yeah, so I've been playing D&D for like, 5, maybe 6 years now. And like Seamus was saying, I grew up like just obsessed with knights and swords and dragons and anything vaguely medieval power fantasy stuff. I was like, let's go. I spent my entire high school career reading the Legend of Drizzt books, and I didn't realize that it was like it says Dungeons and Dragons, but like I had no concept of D&D.
No source material.
I didn't play until I was an adult, but like I loved that book series, and I've read I think 23 or 24 out of like I think it's over 30 books now.
The Dragonlance ones?
No, the Legend of Drizzt specifically. Yeah, all the Drizzt ones.
Good steward.
So been a fan of fantasy video games and stuff like that. I was at work one day, and a buddy of mine was like, "Hey man, I'm thinking about DMing a D&D campaign. Do you want to play?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And he brought the books with him, his Dungeon Master's Guide and a couple of different source books, and I started reading through them, and I was like, "Bro, let's go!" Like, I'm so ready to do this. And then started playing with them. My homies in Oklahoma, Jordan, shout out to you if you ever watch this. Thanks for getting me into D&D, dog. I've ran some one-shots that have all been like original OC, if you will, original stuff. D&D 5e, but it's all been like original stuff. I haven't ran any modules or anything like that. I've helped some friends like co-DM a couple of different groups, and have just like some of my best friends are DMs, and we'll just talk about all that stuff too. So I would say probably the least experienced DM of the group, but no less literate.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't have to read.
And you guys all know.
I think it's one of the few skills you need as a DM.
Yeah.
And then
Read something.
And then you guys all know Mandy and Hannah from our campaign. This is Isadora / Vitra.
Yes, from the first campaign.
And this is Hannah. She's just my wife.
Wow.
She plays
Faria
D&D.
and Sage.
Yeah.
Two powerhouse characters,
Yes.
by the way. Maybe I'm a little biased because, married. But
Otherwise, we'll sleep on the couch.
no, I mean, without any like humble brag on my own spouse over here. The ability to just get into character, and it's really fun as a DM whenever you have players like contacting you, talking about ideas for their character, like what they want to happen, or just like reaching out in the sense of, oh, it was I was thinking about like what my mom would have said in this moment, and like I've been thinking about what I wish I would have said in that interaction. Like just the fact that you think about the game throughout, because we play every other week, so like there's a 2-week gap. So the fact that people think about the game in between, as a DM, like I couldn't
Most
ask
of our
for
phone
anything
call
more.
conversations.
Yeah, I get at least a call a week from Adam, and it's always some. Well, actually, a lot of times it's him. Hey, I have an idea for a new character. I'm like, dude, you're still alive.
He's got 10 just ready to go.
He's got-
Dude,
Yeah.
Any given time.
Are you trying to be if you don't have 14 characters on deck?
We weren't talking about me. We're talking about Adam.
So to keep it going, so we've Hannah's actually prepared some questions to ask us, and we'll kind of go through and give our responses. I think it's going to be kind of free for all unless you like handpick someone to like call on, but I think it's going to be just kind of conversational. So I don't really think there's any structure. We don't have to go one at a time, but like if there's a good point, feel free to step in.
Yeah.
So Hannah,
Okay.
take it away. What do you want to ask the DMs in your life?
All right. Well, I think it's interesting because you guys all kind of sort of answered this, but I'm curious what the moment was. What made you decide? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna DM. Like at this point, I need to take this over. Was it actually just this moment of, well, if somebody's gonna have to do it, I might as well be it, or was there a moment of just like, holy shit, like this is what I want to be doing?
I mean, for me, it was that. It was either not play or IDM, because I couldn't get Trey to do it, and I couldn't get Nick to do it, and that was kind of it for our group outside of the creepy DM who we stopped talking to. But it was that. It was like either that Trey's not going to message, or I have to message him. And him and our friend lived together at the time, so it was just me going over there. It's like, all right, we're gonna fucking play. Wake up. So, but yeah, and then once you started doing it, I was like, here you go.
I mean, mine's pretty straightforward. I mean, it was just something I wanted to. It wasn't like it wasn't out of necessity. Like you were DMing for us, Seamus was DMing for us, and I just thought I want to try. Like it just I had so many creative ideas in my head of what I wanted to
Start
get
building
out
that
there.
world.
Yeah, and just the idea of being able to, I guess, world build was so fascinating to me. I mean, I'm a big fantasy fan, as everyone knows. Tolkien is like one of my biggest influences. And that's seen very heavily in our first campaign. Whether you guys know it or not, like there is a huge Tolkien influence within the first campaign. Second campaign's influenced by another fantasy author, which he knows. Which so far you guys haven't really run into yet, but it's gonna come. You guys will.
I'm ready for it.
You and Tristan are definitely gonna be like, oh, well, I know where this is from. But like that's sort of I consume things and then I think of how I would want to do it, differently for like people that I care about, because I'm like. Everyone loves it. Yeah, everyone loves to play. And I think that's just who I am, like as sort of a person. Because I do the same thing for the Survivor parties that we do. Right? I put together the Survivor themed party for my friends and come over and like I just like to do stuff like that. So it was a no-brainer for me. It was not like out of necessity. It was just I want to do it. And then now whenever I'm a player, I'm like, I wish I was doing that. I wish
That's
I was.
why you have become.
Yeah, I was like, I wish I was.
DM.
I was like, I wish I was being a DM right now. So
Yeah. Gotta love that lore. You're good at the lore, which is good for me.
And connecting like
crazy pieces of the lore
Making
too.
it personal.
Yeah.
That's the hard. I will say that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Is when, especially with how big our games are. Like if we only had 4 players, I don't know why DMs complain about building lore and backstories with 4 players. Grow up. Like when you have 9 players when you start with, and everyone has their own like backstory and like.
And no one's connected.
Yeah.
I think our first campaign, no one was connected.
Me and Trey were.
Oh yeah, you and Cree.
Ukraine sort of.
Sage and Ring.
Yeah.
What was Trey's first?
Arathian.
Oh yeah.
If you think about it, her mother in the first campaign was connected to me.
But he made that happen.
It was not. I
Okay,
made that.
okay, not written. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But then
No.
he like connects.
You
the
just
dots
happen to put your
somehow
fucking
and-
child on a boat.
That-
Her mom was on a boat and died on a boat, and I'm like,
I see 2 things and I meld them together.
yep.
I mean, as far as the question being posed to me, I would say it's a bit half between necessity and half wanting to do it. I again, playing so many games, to me, the thing about a game is it makes you feel like you're the hero. And I always loved a story where you felt powerful, you felt cool. And so when it came a thing with, what was that?
No, I agree. You want to walk in and you want to own the room.
You want to be the badass in the room that is the one that at the very end, boot against your neck, you are the one with the sword and you make the last jab. And the thing is, I always thought that's cool to be that person, but I also have always been cool with being the villain there. And like that's why I'm okay with being the guy who's like, I ought to squash you like a bug, Spider-Man, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm fine with being the Green Goblin in that situation, if you assuming that you've seen the movie from 2002.
Like we said.
Thanks for making me feel old.
Spoiler alert.
My children were watching that the other day.
I think it was. I say necessity because I talked so much to my friend, to the people I worked with about D&D that I felt. One, it's my responsibility if I'm going to make you want to play this game, that I'm the one that should give it to you in the best of my ability. And I mean, I'll tell you what, it was the most nervous I've ever been. And I performed on stage, not for a whole bunch of people, but for like school, like school and stuff like that. And I've sang in front of people. But DMing was almost just the same nerve-wracking as it was. And I had no idea if I was doing good, if I was doing bad, because I had no other experience other than watching either Matt Mercer in the very early stages of...
Which they make it look effortless.
Yes, and I watched from Craghammer, like almost episode
going into
1.
the cave,
And I watched Acquisitions Incorporated with Chris Perkins back from the PAX days.
And
so I'm like, I have an idea of what these guys, but these guys are also 30 years of experience. So I'm just winging it. So it was a matter of necessity, but also I liked seeing that little bit of somebody, like an early story would be Shade's character in the very first time he's ever played, saw a cavern and saw like a little gleam of an eye, and I set it up as, hey, there's something down there, you see something, and Shade's character immediately jumps down, and I'm like, roll, a dexterity saving throw, and like you fell off a 30-foot cavern, you take some damage, and there's this beast creature standing there, and I thought, oh, I'm liking this. Because he didn't know that, but I did. I knew if you jumped down here, here's this Nothic looking at you, because I ran the Mines of Fendel. The introductory set. That would have been my very first campaign, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Not only out of necessity at first, but also enjoying it just because I like to do that.
My last regular group that I played with, our DM Mac was so awesome, and whenever he was getting really swamped in life, he was like, hey guys, does anybody want to I've got to do some stuff, and if we have some people missing, do we want to run some one shots in the meantime while we're waiting to pick back up on the main campaign. And another one of our players ran a really fun Halloween one shot, and he just was like, anybody else that wants to run a one shot, let's do it. And I was like, all right, take a crack at it. And so
how did that go? How did your first one go?
It went surprisingly well. I had convinced my family, who are not into this stuff at all, except for my brother-in-law, who's into video games and stuff. I convinced them to play D&D with me for my birthday, and then I ran the same one shot with my actual D&D group later on, and had 2 different experiences. It was the same
same like
set
game.
of events.
So your first DM experience was with your family who had never played D&D before?
Yeah.
That's rough.
No, it's not.
It was a lot of fun though.
It's not.
I had a lot of fun with it.
It's like when you like hook up with someone who's inexperienced and like they don't know that you suck because like they don't know any better.
Every one of the people that I play with, they had never played D&D before.
Yeah, it
So
takes
they think
so
that
much.
you're the best.
I would just take so much pressure off. Like,
Yeah.
I was nervous the first time we did it. Sorry for going over your thing.
Yeah.
But the first time we played D&D, I was super nervous about it, much like you said, sleeping with somebody. And it's one of those situations. It's one of those situations where afterwards, that was all they could talk about when we were at work. Because I worked with two of the guys ever before that. That's all they talked about was, oh, this and that. What happened if this? What happened if that? And I'm like,
Yeah.
you'll just have to see.
Well,
and meanwhile, I'm walking away like Billy Badass, but at the same time, like I winged the whole thing.
Probably good that we all work together because your team's chat would be like,
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, what about this, Shane? What about this?
I mean, you can still hit me up on Teams though.
So did you feel that way?
Oh, so with my family, no, but with my actual D&D group, I was like I played on stages in front of thousands of people, literally fine, and like running a one shot for my own D&D group, I was like online no less. It was virtual, and I was still like
Online is worse. Online is worse.
I was like so nervous, and then after we wrapped
in
it
person's
up,
easier because like you can feel the tension. And
Yeah.
everyone eases you into it, but online like you don't know how everyone's feeling. Like
Yeah.
you can't sense that feeling. So
After-
online is
after we got done, everybody said they had a great time, and I was like,
Yeah.
sick. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Like it was good getting on the other side of the screen for a little bit to try that out.
Did you go straight into your own stuff, or did you try a module?
Straight into my own stuff. Because by the time I had taken my first steps in the DMing, I'd been playing for like 2 years and was like already the entire first campaign of Critical Role deep. I had a pretty decent idea of what to do, and so like the actual running of the game wasn't my headache. It was like, is this going to be any fun for the
Yeah.
group? Like, is this going to leave an impact?
Okay, so you would have, like you said, the entire first campaign. That's 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah.
Of watching that and that kind of thing. I would say I watched probably 6 months of the first campaign, as well as Acquisitions Incorporated. I don't know how many years that was beforehand. What kind of experience did you? I mean, you would have my DMing you experience.
yeah. I mean,
Not that that's super great.
listen, I had we played our game. I had no expectations. I had no idea what I was walking into. I filled out the character sheet like he told me to. I told him I wanted to be a dragonborn sorcerer, and like that was it. Like I had no idea.
combination.
Yeah, nothing problematic
Mine wasn't
there.
great either.
Yeah, I had no idea. And then I left, and they were all talking about Critical Role, and I didn't know what that was. Right, I had no idea what Critical Role was. So
You only talked because I talked about it.
yeah, and so like I went home and like I tried to start watching Critical Role, and like again, like he said, we were all just like it was like a guys' night. So
Yeah.
it was like we were all laughing, having a good time. I tried watching Critical Role at that point, and it was hard for me to get into it because it was so much more serious. Like there was so much
Yeah.
like that theater like drama aspect,
I
and
love
like they were
that,
like
yeah.
way more like they were like professional voice actors getting into character, and I was like at that time I didn't appreciate how good it was.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, this is a little more like serious than I'm ready for. Because again,
Yeah.
I'd played one time ever. I stumbled across Acquisitions Incorporated, or like put on by the PAX crew, and that's actually what turned me into D&D. So
Okay.
Ac Inc. is what hands down turned me into D&D. Started watching those guys, and at this point, all they do is live shows, and they are a very comedy forward.
No fucks given.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they do whatever because their DM,
Can I see
both
the
of their,
chandelier?
he's got his cock. Both of their DMs for Acquisitions Incorporated literally are have been creative directors for Wizards of the Coast.
Okay,
like
yeah.
you're talking about Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins. Like these guys literally write the rules.
Yeah.
And so like you can do whatever you want in their games, and they're gonna make it make sense because
Yeah.
they literally write the rules. And so it was so fun to watch these guys who were, Patrick Rothfuss and like these like authors, like fantasy authors, which I love Pat Rothfuss. Like,
Yeah.
And so like you see these guys just doing whatever the hell they want, and the DM just like, okay, do this, and it's like that was revolutionary.
That definitely opens your
So-
mind up to just
Yeah,
doing
I was like,
whatever
you can play a character however the hell you want. You can do whatever. You can be as
Yeah.
goofy, as funny, as stupid, or as serious and brooding. And the DM's job is to put the pieces together.
Yeah, contextualize.
See, I was more the other way around. Like, I found Critical Role super early on, like right after they started, because I was watching another show, another D&D. It was just some group of friends. They did a like Druids in a Forest campaign thing. It was like 7 episodes. And I was like, well, I finished that. I need more. So I just put in D&D, and it was Critical Role, like episode 7.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know any of these people, but they're playing. And so, but that was all after my first, like, probably about a year and a half in with Trey and their group. And I didn't start out with 5e. So 5e was much simpler than 3.5.
Yeah.
And so I went into 5e being like, oh, well, this is much fucking easier to DM. I don't have to worry about percentage dice at all, which was nice. Or having to worry, like, they have a bunch of more skills, and you're like, does that one fit there? Does that one fit there? That was my probably biggest problem with DMing, was like learning, oh, that's perception versus investigation and shit like that. But then I also had Trey as a player. So,
I never planned for
Cody,
crazy character.
you don't know.
I've met Trey as a person. I can only assume.
We just consider Trey as pop quiz guy. Like,
oh yeah,
at any point in time.
the time he punched a boat, made it explode.
Hell yeah.
That was fun.
I was so over him in that campaign.
We have
So
on
over
recording the moment that Mandy was thinking.
What's the next question you got?
Yeah.
We kind of went off the rails there a little
That's
bit.
okay.
That's a natural little flow.
So, you want to answer the or
Yeah, well, you
answer
guys
this
were
question?
you guys were kind of talking about this a little bit, so I can assume your answers. But are you more of like following the rules as written, or like if like a decision that a player makes is like cool as shit, you're gonna be like, yeah,
Cool.
Really cool.
yeah,
Trumps everything, because
Cool.
if you just, and to me, if you were going to do something cool as Vitra or as Isadora, and I go, sorry, that's not in the rules. It's gonna be, you're gonna be like, well, I don't want to do anything cool anymore.
Yep.
right.
Right,
They don't
like-
want to push the boundaries.
Yeah, you gotta push, you gotta allow.
So Cody brought this point up, and I'm going to tie it back to that to make it make sense. So Cody said earlier that his most nervous part about DMing was whether or not people had fun.
Yeah.
And I think that answers this question.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you're too strict on rules, and I'm not saying you have to do whatever you want, just set the expectation with your players. Like, if people want a hyper-realistic game where you're counting the amount of weight of gold in your backpack, and like you want all of the, like, have you eaten in the last 6 hours? Like, if you want a hyper-realistic game and that's what you want, be my guest. But my games aren't going to be that. My games are going to be like, I could care less if you have 4,000 pounds of gold in your backpack. I don't care.
There's no problem with it.
That doesn't matter to me. Like, I could care less about that. But if that's something you care about, then like, when you decide to run a game, go for it. But I think it's like,
Just make sure you get players that.
I
are
think with
into
my
that
players,
too.
like, luckily they were all friends first and then became players, so it's like really easy for me to just like have conversations and be like, what do you like, what do you don't like? So our session 0 was super easy because everyone was
In running, like, rule of cool doesn't mean that your players can get away with whatever they want to do.
It can also fail tremendously.
It can fail tremendously, but it's like, if someone has a really it's rewarding creativity is how I see it. If someone has a really creative idea and it's like that could have a really fun payoff, then it's like, try it.
It also means that I get the rule of cool
Make,
too.
make
As
the
DM.
attempt. Like, make the attempt, and if it fails, it fails. If it passes, it's extremely cool, and your creative thought.
We
worked out.
haven't really flirted with it in this campaign yet, but in last campaign I tried to introduce like a factor in combat that was sort of rule of cool-esque, right? You guys might remember this, where if you had like back-to-back initiative or tied initiative,
Oh, combo.
you could combo move.
Right.
And it was like, it was something you would have to sort of plan, but like as a DM, when you're running combat, you can't be tracking everything, so you're like trying to do this, and this, and you get back to them, and they're like, so here's what we're gonna do.
I remember
They would do some fucking
Tristan.
badass shit. We're gonna do this like, wall of fire, and they're gonna like swing through on a vine or something, but it's like a combo move.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that was me essentially saying, hey, do whatever you want, and like if it's awesome, like if it sounds like it would make sense, like if it isn't just ridiculous and stupid, like if it actually makes sense, then it's probably gonna work. You might even get advantage on your attack roll. Like it might create like a distraction or whatever it is. And yeah, like you guys definitely took advantage of that when you could, when it made sense. So
my wife used to do when Tristan would play with us before for y'all's group. She would, and I would DM. She was the opposite of that. She'd be like, well, our fire needs oxygen. So I'm gonna do this to do like she would take it the science route, and I would argue her that it's like we're in a world of magic, baby. No, what are you doing? But like fire still needs oxygen.
It doesn't need oxygen.
we're underwater. You can't cast fireball. The fuck I can't.
No, she would argue that it was hard to combat her. And it helped learn the rule of cool is like I shouldn't have argued her on a lot of those points because it made her cool. Like she did still a lot of stuff with lightning.
Yeah.
And I was like, I shouldn't have argued it because it was cool as shit. But me learning DM was like, well, that's not in the rules. I don't have anything about lightning doing this. And so, it's definitely a learning curve to learn to do rule of cool because it's easier to just follow the rules.
Right.
Like, well, you fucked over my boss because you did this. But
I don't know.
There's a lot of subjectiveness when you do, the rule of cool.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, what am I gonna let slide? And I've definitely rode that line before of like, God, that was really cool. I wanted to succeed, and I also wanted to have fun. But you can't jump off a 10,000-foot skyscraper and expect nothing to happen.
Yeah.
It's a very tough.
Yeah, I think you have to ride that line because, like you said, like it's you want it to be cool. You wanted everyone to like be. Everyone wants their own epic story, but also
I definitely learned how to reel it in on the first couple times we played because I basically said, "Oh yeah, you definitely do that," or something like that, and I would like just make you do a roll, and the DC was almost nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Screw it, whatever." But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, he did just jump to a cavern by himself against a monster he saw. And I'm like, I should probably punish that to some degree. I just use that as a
so what Adam said.
Actions have consequences.
So Adam said he just said like following the rules is easier, and I think I could probably argue that and say it's probably easier to do rule of cool because then you don't have to check yourself. Because if someone says they want to do something, you don't have to go through the
you don't have to be consistent.
GM manual. Yeah, you don't have to like you can just
the
be
consistency rule of cool.
Yeah, like you just it makes sense. It's cool. I want to hang from a chandelier. You don't have
the
to.
only bad part about it for me is I forget what I've let you slide with.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you change it, and you're like, fuck, man.
That's what I'm saying.
So
Wait, you let me do
Size,
that
I
in
can't do
session
that again?
7. Why
Yeah.
do I do it now?
Well, luckily, I let you guys get away with fucking everything all the
Yeah.
time. So
don't worry about it.
All right.
like, oh, you did that? That makes sense.
right.
You guys take better notes than me, so I'm like, yeah, you're probably
You
right.
write a good enough backstory. Shay will let it slide.
Yeah.
Ready? Okay. So when you have your world built, you have the maps, you have the main cities, you have the cultures. How do you like to start a campaign?
In a bar.
So I think this can be taken a few ways. So how to start a campaign. If the world is built, I think as far as the player character side of things, right? Like kind of showing the world to the players and doing like a session 0 where we talk like what we did for this campaign. I think that's a great way to sort of allow you to meld your backstories into the world that I've already created. And 90% of the time that works. 10% of the time, people still do whatever the hell they want, regardless of the world you give them. Heather.
We love you.
Yeah. Love you, sweetheart. But yeah, I think and I think this kind of is another question that I'd like to ask you guys as well, which is, how do you like to start the world building process? Because you said everything you've done is homebrew. Everything I've ever done is homebrew. Mm-hmm. I've never done a module. I know you've only done modules, so it's kind of an interesting
Yeah, I've never done a module.
That
And
was
so-
one of our questions.
Yes.
And so, like, as far as starting a campaign, I think it depends on, like, the real start, right? If I've already built the world, like, I already built Thaldrin, like, I built Alta as the planet, right? We have Recton, which, for the OGs, remember Recton, and Ashai, you guys fucked them up. It's the first time y'all fought Crater, and then that went into the last campaign. But, yeah, I mean, like, I like to build the map because I'm the kind of person, if I look at a book doesn't have a map, probably not going to read the rest of the book. I like a map. I think it's cool. Again, that goes back to my Tolkien fucking fanboy. I love a good map. And so that's where I start. I build the map. And then I throw people into it. And let you guys start playing around with everything. But that's how I like to start a campaign. I'd say world first.
I guess from the other side of that, having never... So, I will say I've definitely come up with my own world. I've done the basics of doing certain things. More so inspired by your own work, like doing your own thing. So I created a world. It had a little bit of origins and something my brother did a while back, and I kind of just took that and I rolled with it. I'm no stranger to writing something up.
No.
So the idea of
72 pages.
So then okay, here we go. I have a world. I have a thing. What do I need? I need gods, and I create gods. And you go. I've kind of done both. I've kind of done from top to bottom and bottom to top and tried to meld the middle, and I haven't gotten anything particular. As far as going from a module running like Strahd, well, I know I have to get you into Strahd's universe. That's all that matters. I don't really have to care about my world that I'm building. I just put you in a particular town. Hey, you get a letter to go to a tavern. That's like a very stereotypical thing. And that's just getting me to where I need to go. As far as the module goes, then I can change certain things in there to make it more my world. Like, for example, Hannah played a character in the world that had an earring that talked to a god named Oppen. Oppen was a god in my completely made up thing. And if something ever comes in the future and we play a game where it's in my world, you're going to see Oppen as one of the gods. And it's just like I take what's in the module, make little changes to work what makes my own brain satisfied with what I'm trying to do. But for the most part, I'm not really super good at creating a giant web of sorts of things to weave. These people know, but I'm a character. I like doing voices and making people laugh and doing that kind of thing. So like, I don't care necessarily where you are. It's more like with whom you're with in the world that makes it more important.
The web connection is so important. Like, that is so important, especially in a homebrew setting.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Which is why a lot of times I realize it's one of the things that I fall short on. So when I try to run Strahd, or when I did run Strahd, it's great we're in this world. We've all accepted that as a social contract of we're in this thing. I just don't have any way to tie it back to certain things other than coming up with whatever it is your backstory, and I try to make it fit the world that you're currently stuck in.
Yeah.
The motivations of the module. So that's the only kind of frame of reference I have.
I start with the villain.
Yeah, what about you?
I was literally, I was about to say the same thing. My homebrew campaign started reverse engineered from a BBEG.
I start with the villain. So like with y'all's campaign.
Vanita Land.
Vanita Land, yeah.
Vanita Land.
It's Ventalia, but we all call it Vanita Land.
Vanita Land.
Yeah.
My last name is Vanita.
Ventalia.
Ventalia. But when I had both of y'all's campaigns in the same world, I started with the bad guy that I made on my phone, who was level 30, and I was a level 20 monk and a level 10 sorcerer because he was like a martial arts wizard kind of person. And so then I made.
Yeah, we didn't meet him.
I'm glad
You
we didn't.
didn't? No, you would have
Thank
fucked up.
Lost him real quick.
Yeah,
I punch you with magic.
And then I made his sect or his clan, and then I was like, okay, well they need a city, and so I made a city, and then I was like, well they're at war with somebody because that's part of the campaign that I wanted, and so then I worked from there, and then I eventually made the continent, and so it worked out from the main kind of plot line that I had with the guy, who had, and he would have his clan was sectioned by masks, so he had a purple mask, like a purple jewel mask, to say that he was the patriarch. And then below him were black masks, and below them were silver masks, and below them were gold masks. And each one was a different power level of monk and sorcerer, because I'm a big martial arts fan. So everything was monk and sorcerer, and
Never knew that.
hey, give me a sword and magic, we're good.
Mandy looked like she was discovering some things about their game.
That's so.
We never got to
We
that.
never got to that, but that's
we never
why.
met him, and yeah.
If you remember that the dungeon, one of the last sessions we played, where you lost your arm.
Yes.
The guy
and my ring too.
Yeah.
It was that arm.
Yeah, the reason it was a tomb was because the item that I was trying to give y'all, the legs, the greaves, were for a monk to kick, like I made for you in Shade's campaign.
Yeah.
That's where that idea came from.
Man.
And so everything was based around the martial arts magic side of it.
Oh, wow.
No wonder you played Vitra so well when I wasn't here.
Vitra, fuck.
I mean, when you weren't there, it was Adam and I going, we played most. Let's play.
She does this, and this.
Don't forget the floating blows we do attack.
Literally.
But yeah, so I start from a bad guy and a plot that I want.
I
and then
assume
go
you're
from there.
similar.
That's super cool.
Yeah, so I had an idea, and I don't want to divulge too much about this bad guy because I want you guys to play this. Maybe
Keep it vague.
As a little mini campaign, but this bad guy is based off of a character from a book series I read in like my preteens. And I was like, oh, this is what would be cool if a character like that popped up, and
Edward.
How would people deal? It's got nothing to do with Twilight. It's not even vampire adjacent. I'm also, and this isn't going to spoil anything, but I'm like a massive fan of like eldritch horror, like Lovecraftian, cosmic, like unknowable evil, like that kind of horror is my cat's meow. Like I love that shit. And
Just
so,
show your age a little bit more.
it's a combination of two of those things, and I was like, oh, that would be fun. How do people deal with this? And I was like, okay, how would I get them there? Okay, and so literally based on this one individual, I started like fanning out an entire route to get to them. I was like, well, the route to get there's got to be filled with places and people, so I got to populate the places. I got to put the places in certain placements. Okay, cool. Now I have like a peninsula. Oh well, we got to attach that peninsula to something, and like for me, it's just stream of consciousness. Like it starts here, and then that has to happen in a place, so I need to make a place. Well, that place has got to be connected to other places, and then I just populate out from there.
It's got to have a goal. That
is
city
so
has to have
Pretty
some
soon I
colors.
have an entire continent that all started at like one corner and fanned out.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I do it, I mean, almost literal opposite.
Yeah.
So like I build the continent 1st, right? I build the peninsula, I build the cities.
Yeah.
And then as I start receiving different backstories, then it starts to make like at some point in my mind, and I know it's not helpful for anyone listening for advice, but at some point in my mind, I determine this is what I'm doing. Like it's not like I don't think of the bad guy, and I don't think of this like beautiful, like destructive way to do it. I think of what's the foe that makes the most sense for these players. Like what would be the coolest way. And so in the last campaign, there was a lot of new explorers or Renaissance explorers, right? We had Silex and we had Old Man that did their fair share of exploring. Zenro did a lot of exploring back in his day and sort of settled down. He also settled down. We had a bunch of people who were new to leaving ever, and so I made a bad guy or a series of bad events, right? Like bad people that you would find in various parts of the world to force you guys to explore and roam the world.
Yeah.
Like that was kind of the plan. Like I want you guys to get down to Athos Beach. I want you guys to get, you don't know, but I want you guys to go over to Fjordstown. I want you to
Why
go.
have you not watched the first campaign?
I want you to go.
My bad.
It was all
It's
about
on this
exploring
channel.
the world. Yeah, it was all about exploring the world, and so that's what, like, that was where my mind went, because I already built the continent. I already built the map, and I thought, well, they're all right here. How do I get them there? How do I bring the ties to the religion of Jaru? How do I bring the Jaru religion, like, continent-wide? And similar things have been done for this new campaign, where various, like, villains and foes have been created around, I wouldn't say backstory elements, but just, like, themes within the backstories that you guys have presented to me. So, again, we have this conversation again after this campaign. It might make a lot more sense based off decisions that have already been made on my side of the screen, that you guys might be able to look back at and be like, oh, that makes sense now that he said that. You know, so that's what I enjoy about, like, building. Like, how do you, like, I think the question was how do you start the game, I guess, but, like, villain first, world first, module first, like, whatever it is, like, I think all of us sort of understand that once you build that once you have whatever it is that you start with, then it's how do you connect the characters to it.
Once you push the boulder, they're eventually going to.
I'd definitely say if I had a custom, because you guys have all done customs, I would do your particular.
It's called homebrew.
Homebrew. I understand that. It's also custom to you. But if I did a complete homebrew, which I would like to do, then custom, yeah,
like a custom game.
Then I would definitely do it Shades way instead of like villains are nice. I can create a villain anytime, but I like to have the world to some degree scoped in. That way I can be like, well, I want the villain to be related to this particular thing.
I don't think there's a right or wrong way. It's just like that's the way that makes sense for me.
Yeah.
And so like if you create a villain first and like that's how like your world comes together around the villain, I mean, fucking go for it. Like I don't think there's
whatever gives you the whatever starts sending off those different ideas of like, oh well, that causes me to think of this, that, like whatever your springboard is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like it doesn't have to. Which is like when I start with the bad guy, he was the final bad guy y'all would have met. Like, and that he can lead to 3 bad guys down that y'all will eventually take care of at level 5 is okay because I think y'all did fight one of the masks. Mm-hmm. Maybe it might have been Tristan, my wife's group. But you could start there at the ending, like, ooh, here's the final battle, because that's what gets the ball rolling for me is I create characters. Mm-hmm. And so if I create that character, then I'll be like, oh, well, there's 7 more characters around that, and eventually build the city out of that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, one of our other friends, other Cody, ran a one-shot.
We don't talk about him here.
Miss you.
It's forbidden knowledge.
He ran a
Fuck
one
me
shot
up with that one shot.
Yeah, he ran a one shot for us that actually started with us rolling initiative against the BBEG. So we started by rolling the initiative, and then he said, "Okay, we're gonna go back 6 months." And we're like, "Wait, what?"
Flashback mode.
And it was really interesting because we had no idea how we got there. We didn't know why we were jumping into it, and it was a really, really cool way to do it. So.
Go, girl. Go, girl.
I know. Go.
Yeah, go sit with Chance.
Okay.
It's Seamus.
Yeah, but it's the couch.
It's the couch.
Yeah, but Seamus is on the couch.
It's fine.
Look how happy she is.
I know. She's smart.
Oh, you can't see in the camera. She looks happy.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Yeah, we love you, Cody.
So since we've talked about like building your world, how you start your campaign, are there any tips on how you prep for a session? Like, you said that we do our sessions every other week, so you have like 2 weeks in between to kind of take what we just did and plan for the next one. How much do you plan? Any tips or tricks? Do you just like wing it, or do you have like things laid out? What does that look like for you?
I mean, I'll pass this to you guys first.
Yeah, for me, I'll answer that one. So usually when I think about planning something, it's going to be in the last few days before we play because I'm a procrastinator. I feel like there's a fair amount of DMs that probably are, But I'll tell you this: I really do concentrate on it, and what I do is I think, where did we end? What was the natural story progression from where we ended? Like what was the vibe? What was the feel we were going to here? Then I think where I want it to be at the end of the next one. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to railroad you, but this is a goal that I'm trying to get to. And I think to myself, okay, character A has to go kill somebody. What if they don't? What if they do? What if they succeed, but somebody gets seen? What if they succeed and no one gets seen? And so I eventually kind of think this branch of things, and I go, well, how do I eventually siphon this back down? And so I've thought about, it's almost like an overthinker, somebody who's very neurotic. I've thought about every situation, and then ultimately, I wing it. Because you can't say for sure how it's going to go. Mm-hmm. I have all these different options. I've got I have, usually in my notes, I have red, which is indicator of this is crucial, I want to get this done. And then like greens and yellows are like, these are little midline things that if they happen, good, if they don't, whatever. But I think this is still my end goal. I can get there, but I can wing it and get there. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of like how I feel comfortable. I go, they killed somebody, in Strahd. I tried to get you guys to kill somebody at some point in time. Mm-hmm. I think even...
Church killed anyone all the time.
Church at one point in time wanted to kill somebody. And I thought to myself, not what I had in mind, but I'm down for it. Yeah. But I never got the chance because I rolled and a guard happened to see him. And I'm like, well, shit, he can't get there today, but maybe you can go next session and kill that person. figure it out at the end. So it's ultimately like completely think of everything in the story, then I wing it, and I'm bound to hit one of the many kind of avenues I've already thought of.
Okay.
And to me, that gives me comfort because I've thought about it, but I'm also winging it, so it's a good midline.
I want to springboard off of what you're saying because that's kind of where I'm at, and also a person that's had a huge influence on my DMing and my thinking of DMing is Anthony Birch, who DMs for Dungeons and Daddies, which is a podcast, and if you guys haven't listened to it, it's incredible. But he in their after show, because I subscribe to them on Patreon, goes into some insights on his DMing style and stuff like that. And long story short is it's like, you guys are here, this is the end goal, there's been some MacGuffin dangled in front of you, and you've got to get there at this point. You know what I mean? Like, this is the ultimate goal you're trying to get to, right? And no matter what decisions you make, you're going to get there, you're going to get close to there. So you start session here. I have a really good idea where you're going to be by the end of it, and it's like, whatever happens, happens, but you're going to wind up where I want you to wind up. It's not railroading because how you get there and the consequences of how you get there and what's happening once you get there could be wildly different.
It's a maze. This is your entrance. This is your exit. You have to.
You can take any path to get there.
But you can go like shit into the line.
And like what's going to be waiting for you at the end of that maze will vary wildly.
And if your last moments in the game are you putting your left hand on the wall and I Sonic you the Hedgehog through the thing, so how do we get here? I'm like, I don't know. But
God, tell us you there.
As long as it works and it's somewhat makes sense.
What about you? What do you do for prep?
I was a big procrastinator. I was a day before procrastinator, but I would. So I had a lot of time. I would do a lot of like what milestones I wanted you to hit. And then it would be like, y'all would do something, or Trey would do something, and I'd be like,
don't throw us in.
It's Trey.
Don't throw us in.
all right, still gotta get you here to kill this guy somehow, or you gotta go through. I really liked making y'all really powerful, so I had to get you to go through these milestones to like to go through tombs to like actually dungeon, and be like, oh, here's you guys get +2 to your strength for whatever reason, you know, like I had to get you to go through those, but I was really.
And we got a level every time.
Yeah, you know what? Mage Tower was fun, okay?
It was real fun.
It was. It's
but
not in my fucking game, I'll tell you that.
A lot of it was winging it, but having ideas of activities that were around.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of times you go to a town, you're like, what's on the mission board? And what do I hear in the bar? It's like, okay, I have activities for you to do, and some of them can lead to one of the 3 options, and that one of those 3 options will eventually lead to the big bad in 20 sessions.
So you have an illusion of many options that are really just...
Yeah, but they're all, you know, I like the big mastermind boss battle at the end, so there's always that villain at the end of like, I meant for you to be here this whole time. I needed you all for the sacrifice, and you had to come of your own free will, whatever the reason may be.
Which connects to you, like, starting with that big bad evil guy in the first place,
So, but, that's what I do. It's a lot of illusion of free choice, but I also like to just, if you guys are doing something fun, like the whole Atlantis thing, didn't plan on it at all. Fucking one bit until you guys realized to like gave the hint that you guys should go to Atlantis, which wasn't a hint at all. And you guys went, and I was like, I'm gonna have to come up with how they're gonna fucking get to Atlantis. And like no one has found Atlantis in years, and why everyone thinks it's fake. Why would everyone think it's fake? Because there's a fucking jet stream that takes you 1,000 miles in 5 seconds if you guys find it. So, like, yeah, that wasn't planned at all.
Found it. There was nothing there.
I didn't mean for y'all to go there.
Trey did.
We had a little pointy sword that told us where we were going, and we got to Atlantis, and the sword pointed up.
So I'll shock the world here and say that I'm not a procrastinator.
No.
I do not procrastinate. I
You
usually
probably send yourself a Google calendar.
Yeah. I actually put it on my calendar to prep. Yeah.
How long does it take you to prep a session then?
So that's where it's different. So just because I don't procrastinate doesn't really mean that I spend a lot of time prepping. So I spend, I mean, without it sounding ridiculous, probably hundreds of hours of prep before our first game. Like world building, culture
last
building.
time it was like a month and a half,
Yeah.
right?
So like, and I mean that's like almost every day in
Yeah.
there. Like culture building, like Pantheon, like building like just everything that I can think of that might either be a playable element or be an element that comes into the story. Like whether it's something you guys mess with or not, or something I need to like have an idea on. And then once the game starts, I like to keep the cadence. So if you guys watch Dimension 20 with Brennan Lee Mulligan, he, and whether or not you've picked up on this, he does an alternate session, which means almost every other session there's combat. There's a very narrative forward session, and then there's a combat session. Narrative forward session, combat session. I like to do the same because I think we build our characters up because we want to see how they perform in combat and fight and feel badass. Yep. But we've also created this game where it's so story forward that we can have an entire session with no combat and people still enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And so it's a little blend of both of that. And everyone here has kind of said the same thing, and I'll just straight up say it. I don't fucking care. I'll railroad your ass so hard. Because at the end of the day, we want a story that's congruent. We want a story that makes sense. And like when you go to when you watch a TV show on Netflix, right, and it flops, right, and you're like, why did that suck? And then you start to think about it. You're like, nothing made sense.
Yeah.
Everything was just all over the place.
Story didn't go
That's
anywhere.
not fun. Like no one enjoys that at the end of the session. Like we didn't get anywhere. We literally made zero progress an entire session. Like, have you? If anyone's ever left a D&D session thinking, what did we even do? That's a fucking problem from the DM. Like that is a problem. Because like you should always progress. Like whatever you're doing. And so I don't do a lot of prep in the sense of like if there's combat, and you guys know I like to do the building and the crafting and stuff and the painting, so I like to prep for that stuff. But as far as like,
I wouldn't necessarily count that. That's more like visual.
Sure, but it's time consuming.
Yeah,
It's prep. If I try to do that the day before, it's probably not going to work out. So like so that stuff I have to like prep in advance.
I was thinking
That's why I drew the maps with the markers because I was like, it's with my head. That works.
I was thinking like a strict answer to make it short if anybody's watching. When I thought about prepping, basically when it came down to it, if I planned on a 3 to 4 hour session, I wanted equal and/or time and a half to 2 times that amount of time. So if it's a 4 hour game, I would take enough time out of my day to be 4.5 hours dedicated to whatever I'm doing, up to 8. So anywhere between
homework rule.
Yeah, basically like I'm doing anywhere between time to 2.5 times of the game time we're playing. Prepping.
Yeah, I never really think of it like that.
And that's just been like a good rule for me to get. Well, it's because I was a procrastinator, so I'm like, I need to dedicate.
I need some structure.
Yeah, exactly.
I just think of like
pure
If
chaos.
they're gonna want to play for 3 hours, I need to at least put 3 hours of time on it.
Here's an easy example that ties what you and Cody both said this, right? Like the maze was a great example, right? After we had our first session of the Thaldron campaign, right? You guys found Inari, found the dagger, which was the whole point of what everyone set out to do. Find that fucking dagger. My thought after that session, right? Again, I don't think
I know where this is going.
I don't think 3 or 4 sessions. Like I don't think like what's the long term I think what are they most likely going to do next session? And I try to prepare for that. And so my thoughts were they're probably going to go back to Redborough. They're probably going to go back to the guy who gave them this contract and turn this in and get the reward. That would make sense. So I prepped for that encounter. I prepped for you guys going back doing all this. That didn't happen for 4 sessions.
That's what the difference is for me. I would have been like, yeah, but what if they didn't?
Yeah. And so I'm like, all right, well, and that's where the wing it comes in. You're like, fuck it. Like I'm very good at improvising, so that is a talent of mine.
You make it seem
that is a talent of mine.
There's definitely 2 buttons behind the DM screen. It's like planned it, knew it.
Yeah, knew it, fuck it.
Winged it.
Pretend that I knew it. Pretend that
Yeah, exactly. You bring out the plan, but on the backside it says fucked it.
I knew that too.
All right, next question.
Was there ever a moment in any of the campaigns
No.
that any of you run that you regret it going that way or wish you would have done it differently?
Giving you guys a fucking fake card.
You know what? That worked in our favor.
That was beautiful.
So for context, we found a deck of many things of sorts.
His
right?
fault.
There was
You know
a,
what?
Yeah.
There was a version of it. To be honest, I found like this thing on Etsy that had like the deck of many things and the deck of what was the other one? It was
the deck of plenty?
Deck of Plenty,
Yeah.
and it came in this 2-pack, and I bought it, and it was like the physical cards, and I just wanted to put it in the game, so I bought it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's fun.
You know what?
I bought it. I'm gonna use it.
That was a phrase of mine. Yeah.
So that's why that got put into the game. But one of the players pulled the Fate card, which essentially means at any point you can play it, and you can change a specific part of the lore forever.
Yeah.
In
My
the
wife
history.
played it
Permanent
perfectly.
change.
As if it never happened or like
And like
alter
at
one
the
we did,
time, at the time of this game, she essentially Uno reversed at this moment the big bad evil guy. It wasn't the actual big bad, but it was
His vessel.
it was his blood. It was a version of him, and it fucked everything. Like, it was for any of the OGs watching from that campaign.
Oh my god. I was
Like,
out that
there
session
there
too.
was,
so I
of
was
course,
like,
you're out a lot of sessions.
I'm so
So
excited to have you as part of it.
I literally had to pause. I had to pause the session. I had to go to my office for like an hour.
Yep.
It's
Trying
like
to fucking because I'm like, I have to rewrite history.
He called Tristan back like she was in trouble at the principal's office.
I had to rewrite history. Like this was like an intent. This
She played it perfectly.
this was a person
correct.
who was a previous player character that I then took control of.
Everything that he did.
Oh no! It was the other way around. It was William. It was
No, he replaced it with
was
Wyatt.
William.
Yeah.
Replaced
Replaced it with my
Oh,
character.
that's right. It was
Punishing me for missing that session.
But it was
What?
a player character you took over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I love
again, this was a callback to our first campaign in this world, which was on Recton, which the bad guy was Crater, which that's who this was reincarnated. Actually, this campaign, it's a weird time thing, but this campaign actually happened before the time of Reckon, and so
And then you added the fake card on top of it. It's just like
yeah, I don't even know how you fuck with that. But you guys didn't know his name besides Crater, so I guess it could have been William the whole time. I don't fucking know.
I do love that particular session because you can see the moment that it hits you as the DM
I was
on
waiting.
the screen.
I was waiting for her to
Because
play it. And I
Tristan
never
says-
thought it would be then.
This and you just went.
Just
Yeah, I think one of the first words out of his mouth were like, okay, okay.
I'm gonna pause.
So to
this.
answer the question of
Oh, you're
what I regret was that that was rough. It ended up being a really cool part of the game, so I guess I don't regret it in the same way, but it made my job way harder.
Infinitely harder.
Yeah, it was a very difficult turnaround, and I think it was especially hard because it was played mid-session.
Yeah.
I think it'd be different if it was like at the end of the session.
Like if you ended the session there.
yeah, if I was able to like
time.
end the session to like take 2 weeks to like figure it out, but it was like the pressure was on. Like it was middle of combat. Like
We're
it
only an
wasn't.
hour into our
Was it
4-hour session.
It was like
Yeah.
It was
well,
a big bad fight too.
yeah, it was a big bad fight where the motherfucker walked in with his big dick turned on because he had an invulnerability was cast on him.
Yeah.
So
That
he
was,
couldn't be hit.
excuse me, if I can have some of your time.
Yeah.
Fireball, please.
Yeah, they were like throwing everything at him, and I was like, doesn't seem to be doing anything. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, he's fucking level 9 invulnerability, bitch. And so yeah, he was.
Yeah, you stopped me from using your stunning strike because
And he had a
technically I didn't hit him.
And he had a contingency staff, so he was still he had that on, and he's still able to cast spells. It was dope. He was awesome.
Fuck him.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
All right, you know what? Eventually got it.
What about you guys? Any regretful moments? Atlantis?
No, Atlantis will forever live as an infamy as one of the best things ever because, for one, that joke pissed off Trey so much that he will never forgive me for it. No, dude, you're just a blue elf. It was fucking great.
Yeah.
And then two, the realization that you guys had when we were at your apartment and of like, why the fuck are we here? was
It's encapsulated in a video.
Oh, I have a recording of it of like
Was
me leaning over to shake hand. I'm like,
astounding.
why are we here again? And they're like, yeah, well, Trey said it was here. Yeah, but why are we going here? Because just because Trey said it doesn't make it real.
But why though?
Why?
it's astounding.
Yeah. Agreed.
I think some of my early stuff I regret, but more of like what I said with my wife is that she would try and do cool things and I would shoot it down because I wasn't comfortable enough DMing yet. But I don't have like a single action that I regret. Yeah, I don't really. I mean, everything is fun. I don't think I've ever had anyone leave bad from a session, at least that I know of.
Yeah.
So like, if someone did leave and like that session sucked ass, I'd be like, oh well, that sucks, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably want to know, right? Because I'd want to make adjustments. Because I
but
don't want to
told me. So.
Yeah.
But I've never been like, man, no thanks.
I think for the one that I want you guys to run, there's a certain situation that happens, and I had a player that played with both groups, so they got to play it twice, and in that situation, I had it hard scripted. This was how it was going to go, no matter what, and that player tried two different things. I hadn't explicitly said this to the person playing, but they tried different things the two different times and it never changed. And then afterwards, they're like, so no matter what I did, it didn't affect that at all. Like that was just going to happen no matter what. And I was just like, dang, like I knew what I wanted to happen in the long run of things. I didn't have to like just shut down. Like you were saying, like I shut it down and I regretted that. I was like, I could have been more flexible in the moment.
I do regret not being able to use the Mage Tower riddles on you guys again. Like the fact that I used them, they're like that's a one-time thing.
It is. It totally is. Because I've thought about doing it, and I'm like, there's only so many riddles out there.
Yeah.
Like and I feel like everyone, especially if you're a vet D&D player, you've seen almost all of the riddles that are out there. And that one was so cool because they were ones that I'd never seen. Like they were so original that it was genuinely difficult to figure out. It was fun. And now they're like, well, now they're all out there. So now I can't fucking give you guys a blue gem, a red gem, and a yellow gem. I can't put it on a table and have you pick it up like that. You guys are gonna be able to like, oh, they're not saying this word. I'm like, he can only talk when you talk. Like it kind of ruins that's the problem with riddles is it kind of like it's a one time thing. Yeah,
one time.
But man, did you cash it in a great time? That was so much
those
fun.
are arguably my favorite moments of the Saturday Nights campaign.
Yeah.
Seamus, do you have any regrets? Anything that you wish you had done different?
I would be hard pressed to say I don't really think I have any regrets. I mean, the only thing I would really regret as far as being a DM was just not being sterner on trying to get a schedule done, like trying
so like
to
out of game DM.
Yeah, I really don't have regrets of in-game DM things. I maybe would have played one or two instances slightly differently, just because it would have added an interesting dynamic to it. An example being that I had Hannah played a character in Strahd where she was a very small, like halfling or gnome or whatever, and you were able to pull up a barbarian from a bridge that was falling apart. And I thought to myself, that doesn't make any sense. Afterwards, I was like, she should have just fallen through the hole that was caused by the barbarian, and both of them would have died. That would have made the tone a lot more serious for a horror game. That would have been perfect. But then I was like, whatever. They both had fun. She felt like the hero, hopefully, at the end of the day, because she rolled like a natural 20 to get him up. Right. So I'm like, as long as everybody's happy. But me, it came down for like my most of my regrets are outside game things of like, I wish I had been more stern. This is one of like your greatest attributes is you're more like, hey, I'm here to be a DM. You want to play? We're here to play. That's it. Like, let's figure out the schedule. Because that first time I ran Strahd, I liked the vibe that we had. I mean, I had like a crying baby for somebody who had a child, so they were really creeped out when I did that particular thing. And so I'm like, I had that good feeling of, oh, this is exactly what I want. It's kind of a dark kind of feeling to it a little bit. I had like this weird scream that I did at one point. And so that game just kind of fizzled because I wasn't like, hey guys, let's play. I was, every single time it came up, it was, oh yeah, that's fine, cool, we'll try next week or whatever. So I don't have any in-game decision makings because I don't have as much necessary play time.
Well, I'd say that because of what happened with the Strahd is why I think I'm a little bit more, you could say, stern with scheduling, is because I saw what happened with Strahd. Because it was kind of a bummer that it fizzled out, and we were all wanting to play, and then it was just like, well, one or two people couldn't make it one week, and then the next time it was like another person couldn't make it, and then it was just always something, and I was like, man, that fucking sucks. Like, I was like, why don't people prioritize it?
Yeah, and as players too, like, our characters are just like left out in the, just the abyss, like.
Yeah. And so like whenever I kickstarted the first like the big campaign, like I made it very clear, like to everyone, like when we signed up, I was like, hey, we're gonna play every other Sunday. Can you commit to it? Like I got like confirmation from everyone. Yes, we can commit to it. There may be 1 or 2 outliers, but yes. I was like, perfect. There shouldn't be any issue. Like prioritize it. Put it on your calendar. Like if someone hits you up and like, hey, do you want to go to this, festival this weekend? You're like, was it Saturday or Sunday? It's Sunday. It's like, oh man, I can't. I already have plans. Like you would with anything else. It's just like it's a matter of prioritization. It's like if D&D is like a low level of prioritization for you, then I probably don't want you at my table.
Yeah, this isn't the campaign for you.
Yeah, like it's like there's other games to play, right? There's other campaigns I can run for you, but this one isn't it. This is like a long-term commitment. And I think just setting that expectation made it very easy for everyone to like buy in. Like, it was super bought in from the beginning, and like that same level of buy-in has been going on for 3 years now. Like it's
Don't mess with D&D Sundays.
exactly. Like I don't know about you guys, we have it on our calendar.
Those
Like
are
it's
the
literally on
best
our.
things.
It's
Yes.
on my
Yeah.
work calendar.
Yeah.
Like it's
It's
just.
the only weekend I
It's
have
on our
off.
home
I have
calendar.
2 weekends a
It's on
month.
the calendar, yeah.
Where I'm off. It's one of
What's
the
the
places.
next question?
Oh,
Your turn.
what has been your favorite, like while you were DMing, favorite event, storyline, or encounter that you have facilitated?
While DMing.
So it could be anything. It could be your favorite event that
Cody, you
happened.
kick us off.
I have one because it was such a hit. It's very contextual to the D&D group I was running. But there is a puzzle in the one shot that I was running, and my character from our campaign, I like set this like plaque that had said like do X, Y, and Z, and like the hero shall appear or something like that. And there's just this cage suspended from a ceiling in the middle of a room. And then they go activate these certain things, and then my character from our actual campaign, there's a moment where he like disappears for like a few hours and comes back, and nobody else but me and the DM knew where he went. And then we retconned it because he like appears in this cage and falls in the cage, and I didn't tell I didn't say anything. I gave a brief description, and then I started talking in his voice, and my entire group lost their minds. And I was like, "Yeah!" And so me and the DM retconned that's where he went when that moment happened. Like he legitimately got transported to. He was like, "What the fuck am I doing here?" And then went back. And that was a really smash hit with that group, and I was so proud of that. So, good little Easter egg. That was one of my proud moments.
I would say I had 2. One I just mentioned. I've actually mentioned both. One is because the first time I DM'd was with the group earlier with Shade. But one of the best moments that happened there was the particular instance where Shade jumped into a hole. And if you ever played the Minds of Fendever, there's a Nothic at one point in time in there.
Yes, there is.
And he jumps down there, and I mentioned in the cavern there's whispers. But he jumps down in there with this creature with the eye, completely blind. I'm gonna hit with my quarterstaff. I'm like, you're a sorcerer. Yeah. And so to me, but it was awesome because that was his action of just being you as Shade.
Yeah, that was amazing.
You went, I don't give a shit. I'm doing it because I want to do it because you said I'm cool with doing it because it's DD, right? We do what we want. That's when I think the other players realized that you could do whatever you want in D&D.
Like open
and
the
that's
door.
a big moment of like, oh, I can actually do that. He's like, yeah, there might be repercussions, but you can do that.
Yes.
And then my favorite moments was the first time I ran Stride because we had that dark vibe, and a player of ours at the time, Lillian, had a child, and I really was like, you know what, she's on watch, let's see if she rolls, or let's see if I roll an interaction. And I did, and I'm like, I'm giving her Strahd, illusion, crying baby, she's had a kid, and so in the middle of a dark night forest, I'm like, that's good enough. And seeing her eyes she was immediately like mom mode went down. Even though her character is not a mother, she is. And so it was like, oh, I got her like that without even thinking about it too. I was like, I got this bitch right where I want. But it was just one of those nice moments as a DM. I was like, oh, I'm actually playing to somebody. Like they're having
Personalizing it.
I have one other quick one, and I totally forgot about it. Was one that when Hannah DM'd her game, when I was in a character so well, another person we were playing with realized that they were letting things out because it was a study of like therapy and D&D.
Yeah. Quick side note: she was running a therapy-driven D&D.
Yeah.
She's a therapist. A therapy-driven D&D session. and we were just trying it out to see if she could possibly run this with clients one day. And one of the players actually had like a therapeutic moment in this game.
Accidentally.
Yeah, completely accidentally, and he got to be the one.
I will say that wasn't me
bring it
as a
up.
DM, so that specifically is kind of a
Bro,
little
what do you think we're doing here?
But as far as like
like to hear it.
being somebody who was a DM, knowing what I was
were
doing
there.
there is
I know.
is being the mediator between people who have never played the game and being somebody who's like a stable person there, because Shade was also there as a stable person that can help with that. It was like, oh, I'm good enough to, even as a player, allow people to understand what this game is. And so that was like a beautiful thing for me, especially when she crossed that line, because I literally was like, is this you, your character, or are you doing this
When
right
she
now?
started talking about text messages,
Yeah.
and we were in a high fantasy setting, we were like, oh, this got real for you.
Yeah. No offense here, darling, but I don't think the raging berserker guy has a cell phone.
I don't think he's going to be texting you, darling.
I don't think
He's
he's
fine.
actually texting me.
What about you, Adam?
I've got a couple. I mean, it's been a long time. So, I mean, one of my most early favorite memories was the riddle.
It's got to be the riddle. It's got to be the jewels.
The riddle.
That had us
and
going.
watching my oldest friend not be able to talk while his wife was trying to talk while other people were trying to do things was the greatest thing to watch. You go,
Especially when I was the last one, and my gym, like the whole thing was they had to guess, like they had to predict what it was, like what was like afflicting you, and mine was I could only speak when someone else was speaking.
so there was
You can see how that contradicts some people.
Somebody could
Like it was
only
always like
talk
always talking
with essence.
whenever when
Trey could only talk with
at
essence.
the same time with someone.
You
And then,
were
like,
in
I could only,
pain
like, speak when people were-
anytime.
Someone said essence.
Talking
yeah,
at the same
anytime
time
someone
as
said
like when I was
essence, it's like,
actually talking.
And so he could only talk when somebody else was talking.
It was fucking hard.
It was terrible.
But
It was like they were trying to
It was also the best thing because his dad was playing with us. This big biker dude, and your dad was trying to speak to you, and he would anytime Shane would start talking, his dad would stop. And like, I could see the frustration in your dad's eyes of his son was not speaking to him properly. It was great. That was one of my favorites. Another one was that when I was running the simultaneous campaigns with your group and then my wife's group, Trey was in both of them.
God bless your soul.
Love you, Trey.
I made this dungeon that was based on a like Chinese novel that I read, where they were going through and they had these tests to do, and one of them was they had to walk in front of this dragon god statue, but you had to make consecutive strength or constitution saving throws to get closer, and the closer you got, the higher the reward was. But it was also you were also taking damage, and things were trying to fight you, but the closer you got. So Tristan ended up getting like super far and got like a +3 to a constitution or whatever it was. And it was just, I remember walking away, I was talking to Tristan later that night, and she was like, it was so cool to go into these rooms, and it wasn't trying to be a puzzle, they were trying to find something, but they would get locked in these rooms, and then they would have a test, because these ancient ancestors were trying to bless them of like, oh, there's somebody here for me to pass my tutelage onto. And that was cool for more serious matter. But then like my favorite comedic moment will always be up there with the riddle is you're just a blue elf.
Yeah.
That was the frustration that I was able to give Trey outside of spiders and children was fed the soul.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch. I have a bunch on my list. I'll narrow it down to just a couple to keep it concise, but just I think it all boils down to like things someone said that just we remember. Like, how did you die during downtime?
Yeah.
Who dies during downtime?
So you're a big fan of the one-liner.
Who dies during downtime? Because it just calls back. Like,
Yeah.
when you hear that one-liner, I love things that like
brings
call
up
back.
images
Yeah,
and
you like call back to
emotions
that
and-
moment of like, dude, she literally died during downtime, and it was so beautiful because no one knew. We're like, hey, you guys have a week, do whatever you want, and everyone spends a week like in the blacksmith and doing this, and she's like, I'm gonna go swim in the ocean, touch an orb.
And float there for a week.
Yeah, so like it was just that was just like
Where's Sage?
that was just like such a great, like you say, like comedic moment, but it was tied to like a very serious, like transformative moment in the campaign for her character, so it was really cool. Another one, and again, maybe this just is a testament to how we like to play, but they're all just funny moments. And that is, you weren't here for this one.
Oh.
You weren't here for this one. This was during one of my versions of Wellman's Academy, which is a real place in Tri-Town, which is in the last campaign setting on the continent. But there was a moment where there was a cult in a basement, and they were cloaked, and it was a bunch of the teachers from the school that were trying to bring back a dragon, which you guys actually ended up fighting at some point. Y'all kicked his ass, by the way. Y'all were way too powerful for that dragon.
For kids.
But for this other campaign, super scary. You guys fucked him up in your game. But there was ingenuity involved, which made me feel happy as a DM. And there was also just complete utter failure, which also makes me happy as a DM, where Hannah's character veiled herself as one of the teachers and snuck in, and the one leading the ritual had true sight. Didn't buy it for a second. And whenever they started to realize, Cody, Gumbo King himself, sent a message that was, oh fuck, oh shit, oh shit. And it was like that moment was
Help
so...
get us out.
Oh shit.
And it was like the way he like started the message was like, I think they know it's us. Oh fuck, oh shit, help, get us now. Help. It was
Like you're having the 25 words.
half of them were just vulgar words, but it was just like, get it out. It was so much fun. I love that.
Do I see the beauty now that's pointed out to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh my god. Call back to session 1 of this campaign. Fucking Heather. Do I see the beauty now that it's pointed out to me?
Oh man.
Alright, what's next?
Okay.
We got a little bit of time left.
Oh gosh. I don't know which one we want to choose.
PC death.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, how do you like to deal with PC death in your games?
You gotta know who to kill. Who you can kill.
What do you mean by that?
So, in my first few sessions, like, I feel comfortable enough killing any of y'all if we were to do a DM.
Cool, sick.
Straight out to anyways, just death.
Us or our characters?
Yes! Mandy, you shouldn't ask that question.
YouTube's terms of service.
No, like everyone in our D&D game now, like if I was to DM it, you're all confident enough that I could, if it happened, I wouldn't have to hold back.
Yeah.
I used to have 2 players who were fairly new, and I didn't want to drive them away. So like Trey was my safety kill. If I had to show back how powerful a boss was, of like y'all should run or talk this out, but if y'all press me on this, I will kill Trey. Like he
In my
was.
head, I'm seeing Trey's character always in a red shirt.
Trey has died, I think, in every single campaign.
Every single campaign.
That is always his fault.
A lot of it is on Trey.
Because he's poking. He's
But
poking.
he's
always
poking.
his fault.
But he's also, I know that I can kill him.
Yeah.
And
He also enjoys creating a new character,
Yes.
so it's not something.
He'll have
that's-
another one like pop up in his head right after he dies. Cool. I'm this new
like
guy.
he had this character named Braxis, who was a tiefling paladin and was the son of a demon lord of one of the actual like canon lords of hell. But he was like trying to take his position, so he was already like kind of an ass as the character. And he did something, and I'm like, you keep pressing, Braxis is gonna die. Like, if I have to show that it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to drive any of the other newer players away. So I think if you got to know who you can kill, and yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.
He's my Trey.
Yep.
Yeah.
But once you're comfortable enough with it, you gotta handle it delicately. Because so like if Silex actually died, I would have been very upset.
Yeah.
But I would have been fine as Adam because I have 7 more characters lined up. I have Raph ready to go. But there's still that like, oh,
Yeah.
he died.
When you play them long enough too, you've been playing Silent
Yeah.
for 2.5 years.
Yeah, I think that I would have had a really hard time with Vitra dying.
Yeah.
Like, I got scared several times because
Good.
you have this attachment to
Yeah.
your
That's good.
character, and like, you put so much work into your storyline, and even like after your backstory, all this stuff. And so, yes, Mandy has to be okay with Vitra dying,
Yeah.
but it would be really hard.
My biggest fear with a player character death is that it didn't matter. Like, if someone dies, it needs to matter. So
Yeah.
when Arathian died, I felt deflated as a DM because it didn't seem like it mattered. Like, he died, and like y'all were like, "Oh, we'll grab the hat that he had." Like,
Who grabbed the hat?
We'll give it to y'all gave it to the squirrel.
We give it to his
Oh, I don't remember
husband.
grabbing the hat. I remember
Yeah.
carrying
I don't
Cree
know
away
who-
because Cree.
Yeah.
I don't know who grabbed it, but
Unconscious.
someone grabbed it.
Yeah.
It was
But it was just like
Oh,
it was just
that's
like
not
it was
fun.
just like, man, I wish it would have like been a higher impact. Like, if someone's gonna die in my game, like, I want it to like have an impact that has
Hey.
like a snowball effect on other events.
I'll tell you right now, Silex has killed whatever his name is in your world.
Oh, that soldier.
Yeah, he is dead.
Yeah.
The second Silex became a champion for Mercule, one of the first things he would have done was gone and assassinated him.
Yeah.
He would have dead. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know. Maybe that was my fault for not roleplaying that, but like, Arathian's death for Silex was a big deal. We just never ran into Frederick again.
Yeah, but that was the thing. That was the thing. It was just like, in that campaign, there was always like mission alpha going on,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then there was like never a ton of time for something else to be going on. That's why this game is a little more like, you guys have a little more sandboxing. Like, there's a little more freedom.
Yeah.
At least at this point in the game, because there's nothing super pressing yet.
Yeah.
That you know.
Keyword.
that we know of.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, seriously, like, you guys aren't like in imminent danger of like
Right.
Demon Lord coming back. like
Yeah.
We are. We just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
what is
There's
that?
something out there.
I definitely feel that like sledgehammer waiting to drop.
I'm not gonna go back to back Demon Lord. I'm gonna change it up this time.
A little bit.
Hell Lord.
Yeah.
There we go.
Helpful.
No, cosmic. So there's I think that's like how I deal with the player's death. I think he answered it spot on. Like, know who to kill, because like there was times where there was someone who was like unconscious, and there was a piece of me that was like, if I'm truly role playing this bad guy in this moment, he's gonna want to finish that kill.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if it's someone like Sage down, I'm like, oh, we still have so much more of a story to get to.
Yeah.
I don't want to fuck that up. And it's like, oh, Arathian.
Hey, you know what? Trey always took it on the chest, man. That was
know.
great.
I know.
Sometimes that sword hits the plot armor pretty hard and it just ricochets.
I will say though, after last campaign with like, again, that Arathian death really kind of bugged me as like a DM, because I was like, it really, like, he came back with a new new character. He was cool, like, it was awesome, but like, it affected me because it didn't really seem to pivot the storyline at all. Like, nothing changed.
Yeah.
You guys continue doing exactly what you're gonna do. You're like, oh yeah, Arathian, that sucks. He married a French squirrel. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, oh no. So I'm like, in this game, like, I'm sure there will be a PC death at some point, because that's kind of what I do. And so like, unfortunately this time it'll probably be someone who will have a higher impact. So everyone be ready, because it could be you.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Yeah.
And like,
it will be you. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Isadora dead walking up the stairs right now.
Just
No, I turned on her.
I mean,
Oh yeah,
we're not gonna make it in. We're gonna die, and then
because I asked to throw a rock at y'all, so that's what kills
I
you.
made a character 2 nights ago, so it's fine. So, do you think that the lack of, I guess, I don't want to say lack of care, but you know how it didn't pivot the storyline at all when Arathian died? Do you think it's because of that specific character, like Arathian, or just like that's just how we handled a death in our campaign at the time? Do you know what I mean? Like, if that moment
Us as
Zimmer
players
died,
or us as characters? Is that what you kind of mean?
No,
Yeah.
it's not Arathian as the player or as the character. It was more of
Like in how our
at that
character-
point
yeah.
in the game, we hadn't really tapped into Arathian's backstory.
So we
there
were
was
less connected.
There was no reason for you guys to really give a shit besides Silex and Kree, and really just Silex, because Kree didn't give a shit about anyone
Yeah.
besides Silex.
Right.
So in that particular instance, it wasn't a matter of like, again, this isn't like, oh man, I wish you guys had done something. It's just like, looking back as far as like things I wish had gone different, I wish like I would have taken more time to like make emphasis around that character death, like make more of a, maybe have different NPCs kind of poke you guys a little bit about it, like, well, what happened to your other friend, like what happened to him, like there's ways that I can do that as a DM even down the road that forces you guys to sort of like
face
roleplay
what happened.
face what happened in a way that's a little bit more memorial,
Yeah, got it.
instead of it being the way it was, which was sort of like, well, it happens, and like it does, but in this, again, it's more of like, in this game it's more serious, so I want, like, when a character dies,
It'll be a big impact.
yeah, I want it to
Yeah.
be a big impact. And I think right now, like, because as you talked about the webs, right now there's webs in pretty much everybody, so if any characters go even this early in the game, we're 10 sessions into this campaign,
Yeah.
if any characters die now, it's already going to have an impact.
Oh,
So
yeah.
just imagine 30 sessions in, 50 sessions in, etc. So like, I think this campaign's already, I've already set a better foundation for if and
It
when that
meaning
happens.
something.
Because I think it will, just because you guys are constantly fighting harder and harder foes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, to Adam's point, you guys like feeling badass, and everyone likes to feel all like,
Mm-hmm.
I like giving cool shit too, because it makes the game more fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I like when you guys are fucking dealing 50 points of damage every round. I like when you guys are getting creative and using rule of cool on me on every attack initiative. So like, I do like that. But that means you guys are going to be fighting a conclave of fucking ancient dragons and shit. Like,
Right.
you guys are going to be going against
And reality is, it's
difficult foes.
chances are people, would die. in this
Yeah,
encounter,
so like there's, and if it happens, it happens, but I want it to be like, it gives you a better reason to want to fuck them up harder. You know, I want it to be
Yeah.
like, we're doing this in vengeance of blank. Like, we're doing this, like,
And you probably feel more comfortable now with all of us. Like, you're not gonna. I mean, I don't know if you ever felt like that.
yeah, I mean, there's, like you said, there's certain, like, newer players at the time. Like, I would have never wanted to, again, Hannah's character at the time, I did not want to kill Sage. Because, one, we were dipping into, like, Sage's backstory shit. But also, like, I know Hannah, like, as a personal, like, wife or whatever. So I was like,
I'm my own personal wife.
she's my own, like, handheld wife. So, like,
Hell.
I think it's because, like, I know how attached she was to the character, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I don't want to kill. Like, if someone goes down, I don't want to like finish off like certain people, and like I need to get that out of my head because I think, like, if someone feels like they're safe because of plot armor or whatever it is, like, that's not as fun. I want it
Take
to
the
be
plot
like,
armor away.
which is
Yeah.
why I proposed the idea of the secret death saves rolled behind the DM
Yeah.
screen,
Yeah.
because that gives the whole field of battle a little bit more ambience. So.
Yeah, I like that. Scary. What about you two?
Is there anything different that you would say?
I would just say, for the most part, you guys hit the nail on the head of you got to know who to kill. My thing is handling PC death. Unfortunately, I would say fortunately and unfortunately, the only way I've had to kill somebody was one when it was a situation Shay's character got into where it was basically like you either die or you take a deal. And that's kind of like everybody kind of got that meta when they're watching it. So that's fine. Like you kind of got that understanding. The only true character death, because I don't call that one a true character death, was somebody that I had to kill because the player was no longer involved. And that's an unfortunate thing because I don't like that as a DM. Now I'm killing off a character. How do I do it to make sense? Do I just make
What
it
about the cart?
Huh?
What about the cart when they opened the cart and blew up 2 people and killed them?
That was I totally forgot about that one. That one was funny because they both kind of went into the situation of like, yeah, there's a trap. Oh well, you didn't
I
roll
don't
enough.
care.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't care. That one's kind of whatever because I could tell the both of them had already talked to me while at work because we worked together at the
Yeah.
time that they wanted to try a different character and they messed up. So it's whatever. That was kind of an understanding. But I didn't like the fact that I had to kill somebody out because they just weren't a part of the group anymore. And it was like, oh, that's an unfortunate situation. Long story short, you guys never got to it, but I was going to bring that character back as a vampire. Strahd finds his body in the water, brings him back. He tells them everything he knows about you guys. And then it's like, oh, that actually,
that
the fact that we didn't keep
great.
track of that asshole, he just threw a moon back from the dead and he's a vampire tabaxi and all that other stuff. And I thought that was a cool thing of, that's how I would deal with it of, okay, he's not back here, but he's still in the game. So it made me feel better. Which
a little
hopefully
worse for the
makes
wearer.
It, a little worse for the wearer. Luckily for me, I haven't had to deal with too much of death. That wasn't like, fuck it, we're doing it anyway. We're doing it live. Or that it's already on the table. You kind of already know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
There wasn't much invested there either because it's not like a huge story, like an original storyline.
Yeah, I have had the good fortune of not having to deal with character deaths personally. My old DM dealt with. We had our wizard we had a situation where we were supposed to meet a guest player, and this is not me DMing, but I had talked with my old DM about it at length, and this character that we were supposed to meet was like a level 20 wizard who was like working on creating mimics and stuff like that, and we basically had this endless wave of kobolds coming at us until he showed up to bail us out. Well, our wizard was killed during that, and he made it so that he messaged the guest player, and the player took his spellbook and carved like some runes into it and bound his soul to his own spellbook, so he was a spellbook mimic, and he could actually still cast spells and stuff, but he had no HP, and if you put him in any bag, he would eat anything made of paper in it, and so it became his entire character arc became this whole like, he's trying to get his body back and stuff like that, and he's a little living, talking book now. And it was this whole, like, it set us on a whole side adventure that ended up, like, making the campaign what it was. But as far as me DMing and dealing with player death, luckily I haven't had to yet, but when I do, I won't lean on this knowledge, so.
Just 5 seconds here. I didn't realize another character death I had was actually in a Strahd campaign, but that was because other characters were killing each other for the sake of the ending. So
that's different. That's different.
But that was more just me sitting back and being amused by the fact it was like, do you want to guys fight each other? Yes. Well, it's fun. But.
All right, let's do one more question.
Have a little
I have
wrap
a
up
great
question.
last one.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
In true message form, 25 words or less.
Message
What do you think makes a session successful? A session, not a campaign. A session.
Ooh, in true message form.
This is a fucked up question.
I think it's great.
This is your DM.
You've replied to this message.
Yeah, I gotta cut, that's the back end. So now we're down to like 15. What makes a session successful?
25 words or less.
Yep.
Yes.
I would say
Oh, he read.
the ultimate ability of the session to have fun is what matters.
Nice.
This game rules.
Yeah, and rule of cool.
I mean,
Reply.
to keep it extremely concise, 25 words is not even going to be a limit. If everyone leaves, like, feeling that they had an amazing time and can't wait to play again, then that's a successful session. Like if it's a cliffhanger, I love that shit.
Like at the very end when we all go, no!
Oh yeah, that shit.
Yeah, where you just
falling
can't
out
wait
of
to
the sky.
play
As a
again.
DM, you're like, oh yeah.
I knew it.
That me from YouTube rules.
Everybody has a great time. Everybody wants to come back.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately that's what. I mean,
So far it's all been like about the players. Right?
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, even the DM needs to have fun.
If I got to kill at least one character,
Trey.
If I got to kill Trey.
Trey's gonna watch this and go, I was fucked up.
We love you, Trey.
Miss you.
Trey's not gonna watch this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send it to his ass. I'm gonna make him watch it.
He's not gonna get to this part.
He won't make it to the
Let's skip to
end.
the end. Not like I watched it, Adam.
I don't know. It's hard. I just say a relaxed environment with good friends, just trying to enjoy each other's time together.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's what it is. So, it doesn't even matter if it's a role.
Yeah,
love it.
I agree. Cool. Well, how about you guys? I enjoyed this. It's kind of fun to just get around, sort of talk D&D shit with all my D&D
I mean, I
nerds.
bug you like once a week to do this.
I know.
Dude, I want to answer some questions too, not as a DM, but like as a player, or just world building.
Yeah, I think this might be fun
Different
if this sort of content is fun for everybody to do, like whether or not views matter, like I don't really care. We never have posted anything for views, so why start now?
You guaranteed me at least 500.
Feel free to like it.
Like and subscribe.
But like,
We're not doing that shit.
but if you guys enjoy doing this sort of content where it's something we get to talk about, record, go back and watch back later as sort of like a fun recap, I think maybe once a month we can get together with various members of the group, whether it's the whole campaign, whether it's just the 5-6 of us, or whoever can make it. Maybe on at the end of the month, each month, just sort of recap, and maybe we can do sort of like they do on Critical Role, where they sort of like do the recap of recent sessions, and then sometimes I can be involved and answer some questions about stuff that doesn't spoil plot.
We can also talk about writing backstories.
Let's talk about
tons of shit we can talk about.
Characters that we have planned for maybe future campaigns or
So
sessions.
you want to go the 30 deep?
So many on Hero Forge.
I made a druid the other night.
I made a druid 2 nights ago. Yeah, we went to a Mastodon concert and they had visuals, and just the visuals made me think of a new character. Yeah.
Before that was a rogue.
And druid is the class, so.
I got Camel's back up ready to go with backstory.
Definitely on the topics we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of different topics we can do, and we can do the same thing where
someone moderates.
Yeah, I'm happy to come. I came up with a lot of these questions, but I'm happy to come up with questions to sort of ask to you guys too, and sort of moderate and run it. And I think this was fun.
Yeah.
I think it was a good time.
Cool.
Well, I'll go ahead and stop the video.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.